But today is a subject which I must admit is not a very usual subject for me, but I have this pleasure to moderate this session today. The American Center have invited me for this program, and I also must say that so many events are spoken, and we speak a lot of events, but every event is different. And today is a all-women event, and this is the first time I'm in such a all-women event, so it's pretty nervous platform for me. This event is on Empower Women at WorkMeet. The objective, of course, is to build regional coalitions and networks in South Asia to strengthen women's leadership in the global economy. Explore ways of strengthening access to markets as a foundation of women's economic empowerment. Explore tools and approaches to manage well-being at work and harness leadership skills at the workplace. So, we all know about the SDGs, and SDG number 5 is gender equality, which is to achieve gender equality and empower all women and girls. But as per the UN's report, and SDGs have to be met by 2030, and as per the UN report, it would rather take another 40 years for women and men to be represented equally in national and political leadership at the current pace. So, data investment in gender statistics is vital, since less than half of the data required to monitor goal number 5, which is gender equality, are currently available. And we must admit that as per the available data, the world is not on track to achieve gender equality by 2030, and the social and economic fallout from the pandemic has made the situation even bleaker. So, accelerated progress is needed to align public financing and gender equality objectives. Building back better from COVID-19 means doing so in a way that advances gender equality and women's empowerment. Fundamental to this goal is ensuring that the allocation and spending of public financing takes gender equality into account. So according to the data reported by 105 countries and areas, for the period of 2018 to 21, is only 26% of countries have comprehensive systems in place to track public allocations for gender equality. 59% have some features of such a system, and 15% do not have the minimum elements of such a system. So accelerated action is needed to expand comprehensive implementation of gender responsive budgeting and strengthen its monitoring and evaluation. So today in this panel session, we'll talk about building ecosystem for women leadership at workplace. So many first generation women-led businesses and entrepreneurs state that there is a lack of mentoring opportunities, and that they often face the problem of lack of information regarding access to appropriate resources, funding opportunities, etc. Our first speaker today is Sriranjani Joshi, she is the chairperson of Indian Women Network in IWNCII, and she's going to speak on developing a platform for corporate, professional, and entrepreneurial women to grow.
And its consequences causing professional women to experience conflicting emotions, high level of stress, and significant increase in their departure from the organization. Women are at the forefront and of the phenomenon known as the Great Resignation right now. So we've been dealing with this, where women are choosing to withdraw from their workplace. Some women are torn between, giving importance to their work versus the responsibilities and the expectation they have back home. So women no longer desire a situation where they feel they are compelled to choose between a successful career and a home where they have to take care of their child or take care of the parents, and just don't you feel it's high time, it's unjust to penalize women for speaking of a better balance or equal opportunities. It's time we take action towards that. Again, by now we know that the benefits of diversity. We have seen that corporates or organizations who have better gender diversity outperform those who don't. So, in today's competitive landscape, women are seeking essential elements such as flexibility, meaningful work, and equal opportunities. So these cannot be treated as optional extras or secondary considerations anymore. Instead, organizations, high-time organizations start prioritizing on these elements. So I
just have a question. You have more than like 25 years of executive expertise in the industry, especially in the field of in academia. Just looking at your profile, I have a question for you. So, in what ways do you see that can the creation of a supportive ecosystem for women's leadership positively influence not only women's career trajectories, but also the overall organizational culture and gender dynamics within a workplace?
Yeah, I'll answer this question in, my presentation also has parts of that, because CII, over a period, they've had various task forces on women empowerment, and it is task forces on safety and security and gender equality at workplace, prevention of sexual harassment, which later on, the CII started off with this Indian Women Network in the year 2030, with an outlook to become the largest and the most effective network for aspiring and accomplished career women. The thought behind the formation of IWN was to create a platform for working women to meet, interact with like-minded women, to discuss the available opportunities, and to overcome challenges and hurdles, and to broaden their horizon basically by learning from each other's experience. CII felt the need to have a focused approach to address issues faced by women and launched IWN, mainly with an objective of creating a network to promote women's participation, women's growth, and leadership at workplace. So that's what So our mission and the mission is to co-create an ecosystem that enables women to live up to their full economic potential. That is something we believe and we work towards it. And our mission is to become the largest and the most effective ecosystem which deals with working women. So currently, IWN is a pan-India organization with more than 25 chapters. The West Bengal chapter we started in 2018, just before the pandemic. So we are growing. We are a group of around 70 women right now, and our stakeholders are mainly women who are independent professionals, women in the industry, women in corporates, entrepreneurs, and also young students. Because we have these projects which are like campus to career, where we train the final year students, final year women to come up what to expect in the industry and train them up. I think Dr. Sharmishtha will speak more about this. And these are our focus areas. And primarily we focus on capacity building and so these are some reasons where we can say that why you join a network like IWN. Because See, our focus is on learning development, health, well-being, and policy advocacy. Health and well-being focuses on all-round development, both physical and the mental health. And another important focus area is the policy and advocacy, which equips women with information and strategies to sustain in workplace. Advocacy reports, compendium, workshops, survey, and conducted relating to legal rights of women, gender diversity, corporate gender gap, to name a few. Our members are primarily women who are professionals, entrepreneurs, students, faculty from the large-scale industry, small-scale industry, educational institutions. So, as I told you, we have 3 main focus areas: learning and development, health and well-being, and policy and advocacy. We also have focused, we have done a lot of sessions on POSH and basically the issues which women face at workplace. So we keep doing workshops and sessions on this in various corporates, and these are some of our initiatives which has been last year. One of our core initiative is the leaderpreneurship conclave, which we had this January. It's a flagship event, and during that event we came up with this report where we putting ESG spotlight on diversity and industries and inclusion was released. So this was a report, a thought paper which attempts to provide corporate leaders with an overview of recommendations as well as principles around introducing effective DEI measures. IWN provides women professionals a safe and open place to discuss their ambitions, the common challenges, and a larger CII platform to learn and exchange. It is not only a supportive network for career-oriented women, which provides access to resources, it provides common connections to similar people with similar challenges. Benefits of women-style networking include finding valuable long-term business contact, hearing advice from peers, experts sharing knowledge and experience, with all the emphasis on making connections and collaboration. These are some of our other events which we have done last year. We work under various task forces, certain subcommittees. So these are some of our subcommittees we work with. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And while doing all of this, we have loads of fun also. That's also that's equally important.
I think all of you should plan to join this group.
I just wanted to put our mindsets to the theme of what Contact Base has said before us, because it is so well thought and so enriched in our path forward. How do we build an enabling ecosystem for women leadership at workplace? So I would just think that all of us are privileged. Privileged because if we just shut our minds for a second and think how many of the classmates who qualified class 10 with us are here in this room or live in my kind of house. So we are privileged. And we have the responsibility of contributing to such an ecosystem where, if we call ourselves leaders, our contemporaries can feel comfortable. So I really wanted all of us to feel that let us use our privilege to contribute to the thoughts of building this ecosystem. And it is not just these seminars and workshops. We do these very often, but what after this? So sustaining this network, sustaining the connectivity and promoting just one woman will do so much for the world. So that was the main mission with which I prepared. I apologize if the slides are long, but I'll keep it brief. So basically I was thinking where to start. Like we're thinking of an ecosystem, we're thinking of South Asia. So we have women savvy political leaders, we have women of domestic violence, we have grassroots workers in the fields, we have IT experts. So for whom am I building the ecosystem? For whom am I thinking that I have to imagine a situation where the leader goes to the top and the leader is a woman? There is always a leader, but not often is a woman. So in this demographic heterogeneity, we find that any small thing happening in South Asia takes global importance, whether it is a social welfare initiative, whether it's a population growth or a cultural or an economic impact, it takes humongous exploratory situations. So is this ecosystem that South Asia contains, is it acceptable or is it welcoming to the women leader? Does it provide the equity or the equitable, or is it equitable? So we talk about gender equality and very often we miss the words gender inequality because the management principles, the policy makers, the political leaders, the policy framers, we often think of gender to be in terms of a woman. It is not gender being the female gender only, like everyone has spoken so much before, that it is a major item of management discussion, and policymakers, educators have to be mindful about the diversity and the complex issues that come up on the table because men and women have to work together. The option is not the other. So where have we reached? This has been spoken of in the morning, that some statistics say that India is doing so well. There are so many, 28% of leaders who are women, the global average is 32%. But let me remind you, it is because the Indian Companies Act has made it mandatory that one of the independent directors has to be a woman. And most often, those women are family members. With due respect to all family members. But do we have enough women to occupy by their right of training, skill, attitude, and behavior the position in that board of directors? So this is what the ecosystem will possibly give us, the woman who rightfully occupies the chair. So good figures to see, but the debate continues. Looking at the grassroots level, this has been said from the inaugural situations. The worst situation hit us when COVID happened. We found that women's employment in households rose, but it quickly took a backseat when employment rates were getting back to normal. But COVID was not the only example. Indian economy has shown us when agriculture was poor between 1999 and 2004, women's participation in agriculture had gone up. So women are basically the crisis managers. So again, for a second, if you think, aren't you the crisis manager? So we need an ecosystem where the woman is not only the crisis manager, and the woman is occupying the position of strategic leadership. So I do my references like every good teacher should do. I try to read up here and there. I was reading up by many, many notable women. And I thought you all have read it all over Google. So I called up a few friends and colleagues and I asked them, what do you mean? What does the women leader at the workplace bring to the table? So I quote two of my known people who said that women bring empathy, which goes a long way in creating the inclusive work environment. Because they don't promoted another man. How did I feel? So women possibly bring in the inclusivity and women promote democratic leadership. So we try to bridge this gap. We try to bring about women's natural conversation style, which is more gender sensitive. Women have community-driven thought process, and this is especially important when we talk about artificial intelligence. So where are the voices of the oppressed? When does artificial intelligence talk about the voices of the marginalized? So it is up to the other half of the society, which sometimes remains unrepresented, to bring out those voices. Because I'll give you a simple example. This is all big talk from theory. We often say, I was just looking at going to Lucknow, and now all over my hot email and my WhatsApp, I get advertisements for Lucknow hotels. Which means that's what artificial intelligence is doing. But this woman who is in Raebareli wants to go to Lucknow because her husband is beating her up and she wants to go and file a case to the Lucknow High Court. Artificial intelligence is forgetting her voice. So it is the women in the ecosystem will realize that technology also has to have a gender and include all genders. So how to make this, am I crossing the time? How to make this ecosystem equitable for the women leader? The woman has to be given the skills. A woman has to be engaged at every level in the hierarchy, be it in the business, be it in academia, be it in community service, at every level in the hierarchy. And give her the skills, give her the knowledge, give her the practice to be at every level in the hierarchy. We have some suggestions from corporate law in terms of gender audit, which tries to assess impact of gender equality. So we are talking about women who will possibly be part of the ecosystem, and since I have the responsibility of training management students, I teach business management at University of Calcutta. This question often haunts me. Are these policymakers of tomorrow, the girls who are sitting in my class, aware about the need for this enabling ecosystem for leadership? Do they understand the need for this ecosystem? And does my management education, which I'm teaching as per the syllabus, as per AICT, as per UGC norms, does this education promote, support, and nurture gender equality? Yes, it promotes. We have reservation for different genders, we have reservation for communities. Does it support and nurture? So do we nurture the women in the community? So I would like to share with you that the situation is not very bad. The girls doing the MBA program are per 100 boys from 2016 to 2021 have been rising. In 2016, there were only 62 girls for every 100 boys in the MBA classroom. But now, it is 76 girls compared to the every 100 boys. On an aggregate level also, my bars show the red bars are the girls, the blue bars are the boys. And the first column is MA, the second column is MSc, the third column is MBA. So though the number of MBA students are much smaller than the MA students, but we are happy to see that the proportion of girls are not any less. So what does this show? That their presence may defeat the bias just because a girl is there in the management system. It may defeat the bias, it may remove some of the biases, and that would enable them to be transformational role models. So their challenging journey to the top will allow themselves to develop and allow other women to develop too. This leaves less room for anyone to challenge the need for women in leadership. So what am I teaching in management education? This is a good slide. I took time to prepare, but I will tell you a story. You know, I've been teaching management education for long, and sometimes at the end of the semester, we take some exit interviews. Okay, so now you're going out of my class, tell me where I go wrong. And I have got feedback lines. You very often use examples which are very targeted to women. You give examples of lipsticks, and you give examples of cosmetics and dress and Myntra, and all your examples are towards the women customers. So I ask you a question. If you are doing a marketing, everybody understands marketing. You don't have to be an MBA to understand marketing. And you are asking, you have been given to do a market research on men's shaving foam. Whom would you ask? My question to the audience. The men. You would ask about the softness of the skin and the blade and beard and so. But I would ask a woman because she will take the household budget into consideration because the man's shave foams are very expensive. So you see, management education talks about case studies and illustrations, and somehow every aspect of education goes towards a particular gender. But why? We are both existing simultaneously in the economy. So actually the wife or the mother is doing the household budgeting. So whatever the household budget permits, the boy or the man tries to accommodate to a certain extent. So what I would like to show you is sensitization of gender in management education. We try to bring in a balance between us. I'll finish this. So what have I been doing besides teaching? I have also for the last 8 years doing this program called the Global Links Initiative, where the MBA students, every year we get new batch of MBA students, are tied up or partnered with, not partnership, but partnered with small business women, where the small business women is facilitated into business development, into social and environmental responsibility, and in mutual empowerment. So the student goes out of the classroom working with micro business women, and in this exchange, through this exchange, there is mutual empowerment, because empowerment is never a one-way process. Empowerment is achieved only when it is two-way. So there are a few entrepreneurs here with us today who have been with the Global Links Initiative, promoting empathy, community building, respect, diversity, and inclusion. So we have powerful voices. As I told you, I was interviewing people. Arun has given me this job to present, so I have to read an interview. So these are interviews that I have collected from Google. And finally, it's not only today, but Plato's saying that if women are expected to do the same work as men, we must teach them the same things. So the ecosystem has to teach all of us the same things. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Professor. The next speaker has come all the way from America. She is Kimberly Moore. Kimberly is the co-creator and co-founder of Black Women Be Whole, an organization based in the United States. BWBW is dedicated to assisting Black women on their emotional and mental health journey with unwavering dedication. She champions mental wellness and self-care with a specific focus on women, particularly those of color. The group setting they create is about sisterhood and a shared experience of growth, no matter where women are in their personal development. They have created a space that would elevate, engage, and inspire Black women to hold space for each other while being present and attentive to their own thoughts and feelings. Kimberly, why don't you speak something about your organization?
Our commonality, because I'm from America, you're from here, and I don't have culture or geography, and so I want to tell you a little bit about me, and then if it resonates with you, I want you to stand up. How about that? If it was your lived experience as well, please stand up. So, growing up, my brother was the favorite. All the boys in my family were given privilege, and the girls in the family were ignored. They were not given the good education. They were not told that they were, going to make something of themselves. And so, as a young girl hearing this message, it was really debilitating because I was not able to see myself as like a full human being. I watched someone I watched boys get better treatment than me. Does that resonate with anyone? Please stand if it does. Let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. Let's do it, right? All the girls who've experienced that in their family, the women who've experienced that in your family, please stand up. Okay, this number's gonna get better. So as I got older, the people in my family, they told me that I wasn't going to make much of myself. They said, stay in a child's place, be quiet, don't speak up, stay small, because it is not okay for you to take up space. Anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Let's go, let's go. And so I internalized that in a way that did not allow me to grow. I felt small, I didn't feel smart, I didn't feel accomplished, and I felt like I had to work really hard and things didn't go my way because it wasn't in the cards. So my family didn't help me feel like I was special and important. My community did not do that either because it was all about the boys. Anyone else? Anyone else? Just raise your hand if you don't feel like standing. How about that? If that's your story. And so it was really difficult for me to access my power because of the way that people conditioned me and told me that I had to move into the world. So I am here today to tell you that I love seeing this. I have a superpower. I'm excited to be producing that today for the work that we're doing and creating safe spaces for women. Thank you for standing. So if that resonated with you, thank you very much for joining me in that because safe spaces are about being vulnerable. If you can't be vulnerable and tell your truth, then you're not going to be in a safe, you're not going to feel safe. So you have to be okay with the honesty. And it has nothing to do with the people that condition you. It was just maybe how they passed that on. So my story starts from a breakup. I was in a relationship for 12 years and I had a breakup and I was in pain. I was depressed. I had anxiety. I had a lot of things that were stopping me from seeing the potential of what this could be. And my business partner in front of 25 plus years over here is a therapist, and she urged me to go to therapy. And so I learned that life after a life event is possible. And I decided to go on a journey to find myself. And in that journey, I decided that I wanted to help other women tell their story, because a lot of us are conditioned to not tell our stories, to stay silent, to be quiet. And in that, I realized that if I wanted people to feel safe, I had to tell them my story, I had to tell them who I am, and I had to be okay with the heavy parts or the parts that I wasn't comfortable with in order for other people to be safe and feel safe. Because more often than not, it's not until someone says something that people connect, like, oh, that's my story too. So for those of you who were brave enough to stand, thank you for sharing your story with me. Just by standing, I appreciate that. So when I think about the elements of a safe space for dialogue, the first one is vulnerability. It's a willingness to share your story and not be afraid of it, because it has parts to it, good, bad, and ugly. Yes, oh.
We've had good dads. We've actually had good dads also who are very difficult for their wives. My mother had a terrible marital life.
Yes.
But as a father, and I'm 53 today, that is the man who told me every day of my life that you are the best thing that can be in this world. So it's not like we're not honest about standing up with our stories.
Right.
We've had good dads.
Right. Well, yes, and thank you for sharing that. So this is not about fathers. This is about people and what they tell girls. So this is about people and what they tell girls, whether that's your family, your community, or society. So people have family members. I had people who believed in me, but as a whole, as a majority, I did not. So thank you for sharing that and making that distinction. And if that was what you took from it, I apologize. I think another element of a safe space is having a vision that you're willing to share with people. And then letting those people be part of that vision, and then also to be willing to change that vision because you're bringing in different elements. Because it's really important for people to feel included. And helping women to feel included in this storytelling is really important. To be able to talk about it, to be able to take their power back, to be able to shift and change for a community is really what's important. So another element of creating safe spaces for dialogue is the willingness to have those difficult conversations. Have you ever been in a place where someone starts to talk about something and you're just like, oh, I want to go more, and then they cut it off because there's some fear there, or someone says something in terms of judgment, and so it kind of stops the flow of the conversation? In our safe spaces, we are willing to have very difficult conversations. We're willing to be challenged, and we are also willing to change the narrative when we hear it, because that's what a safe space is supposed to do. It shifts as you add more elements of people who are willing to do the work and who are willing to be brave, and everyone has gifts that they can bring to growing something out. So when I think about dialogue, and when I think about how we change things in America, Black women are socially at the bottom of the totem pole. So what we have decided to do is to take our power back and to lead the conversation. And the people with the lived experience have to lead the conversation. It can't be someone else outside of the community, because it's not going to feel authentic. Or it's also not going to be something that is heard by the people with lived experiences. So a man could not stand in front of our group and talk to them about their pain, because he wouldn't understand it. And and white people cannot do that either, because they don't understand the experience. So when I think about how you continue to create safe spaces, it has to be a lived experience. My business partner is a therapist. 95% of her clients are Black and brown. And so 85% of her clients are women. And so we have a lot of narratives about this, not just our own, which tells us that this is important because there's a lot of people who are going through the same thing. So we're normalizing experiences and commonalities with various clients, because a lot of times they think they're alone. And if you think you're alone, then there's shame and there's embarrassment, and you don't talk to people. But once you find out that there's someone else, or there's a number of other people who have the same experiences, that makes you more willing to open up. It makes you more willing to share. It makes you feel like you have a community. Ecosystems feels a little intimidating to me. So when I think about that, I think about how community mirrors ecosystems. And communities allow you to shift and change, because you can build up communities and you can tear them down, or you can add more people to build bigger and larger communities. So part of what we do is we are at the intersection of gender and race. So Black women, whether they're Caribbean, whether they're from Africa, whether they're from Latin America, they're all welcome, because there is a lived experience that we can all speak to. And then once you get into culture, that's a different level, but we have to meet people at these larger intersections so that we can get conversation going. And then we encourage them to work on their healing with their family or with smaller communities, because that's a way for them to really get into that geography. So when I think about how safe spaces, when I think about how safe spaces move and support our clients, we have values that we espouse. We curate values. We say, when you come into this space, this is how you behave. This is how we expect you to behave to be in community, because a lot of people do not have the commonality of values. If you have a different experience than I do, and we come into this space together without anyone having told us how to behave in that space, we might just bring like our bad values or habits into that space and not really grow. And so I think another element of a safe space is having curated common values and principles that people can adhere to or work towards, because not everyone is there, but with work with us, they can get there. And lastly, I think for a safe space, you have to be willing to meet people where they are. We came to India, we go to parks, we go to various places because that's where people feel comfortable. Don't always bring them to an office building, because there may be a discomfort there. So we're mobile because we understand that people have different needs, and being willing to meet those needs, because we know that emotionally they just need like that support system in order for them to be able to move is super important. And so being able to just meet someone there and travel to wherever they are has been proven to people to help them trust us, So if I were to summarize like safe spaces, there are a couple of elements that once you have them in place, they're going to be really important to consistently display them and communicate them so that you can uphold the values of that safe space. And be willing to have brave conversations. We don't shy away from conversations because this is where people are coming to get that. They're not finding it in their lives. They're not finding it in their families. They're getting shut down by simply asking a question about something that they're curious about. Or they just want to know and get some information because no one's ever talked to them about that. Talking about your body, talking about all sorts of things. And just be a safe spaces where someone can come to really explore anything that they're curious about and be held if they fall and help you get back. So I will leave it at that because I think that if we have those elements, or if you actively work on those elements, you'll have a safe space for people, and they'll come to you, and you won't need to chase them, and they'll be seeking you out, and then they'll come and tell you, let's do this, because now they're invested, and they're motivated, and their why is now, your why is part of their why. And it's a beautiful why, because it's about helping Black women just heal on their journey, collectively, in community, and providing an ecosystem. I'll keep the word for you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. I think our next speaker is Mrs. Tinku Rajeev Gupta. She is the Executive Vice President at the Indian Chamber of International Business. She is into HRD activities, career counseling, travel and healthcare management, operational in India. What role do mentorship, sponsorship and networking play in the entire process of equality?
I feel really privileged to be a part of this initiative because it addresses a lot of things. As you said, that yes, mentorship is definitely required at every stage. Even when you're starting, you require mentorship. When you're scaling up, you require mentorship. Regarding the sponsorship also, of course, the fund requirement at different levels could be different, but then there's a lot of other factors to it. And lastly, the leadership thing. The leadership is always required, always. It is, especially if I talk in terms of women. Women have a lot of leadership in themselves. They are managing houses. If they can manage houses, they can do anything. So I think that's an inborn talent, but if I talk from the business perspective, what I found is that somewhere they are lacking this leadership. Somewhere it's just fizzling out. I do not know what is the reason. They might be very successful otherwise also. Maybe there are various factors. But at Indian Chamber of International Business, the chamber that I am representing, we are working mainly in the micro MSME domain, mainly. And we devised the things, if I talk in terms of women entrepreneurs, we devised it in terms of the size of the organization and also the sector specific. So if we don't address the challenges of these, the size as well as the sector, I don't think we can any number of mentorship or sponsorship or even that leadership quality would even make anyone very successful. So it's a combination of all, and we usually do this, these kind of events are always there, and we build a task force and we see that it is taken, implemented. Otherwise, it's just discussing over a cup of tea and going away. It doesn't work like that. So that's how we work. And one other thing, that we are having a global women's forum where since we have been working in countries like Afghanistan and other places where the women cannot come out of their houses. It's very difficult for them to even trade with the male counterparts. So what we do, and ladies can be either manufacturers or retailers of products, or they could also be selling services. Someone who's a chartered accountant but had to leave for some reason. So what we do is we make it a self-support system. I need some tax consultation, so I'd always connect with a lady who's from that domain. So that way I think it works much better. And a woman to woman, of course, if it is a product or service products, rather if we have to go to USA to give an exhibition, we have the budget constraints. Everyone has it. So if they are hosting us, then it will be much easier for us from the money perspective.
Okay. Well, like I said, we won't finish after time, but we won't finish before. So I have one last question for any one of you who would like to take this. So this question is, how can men be engaged and involved in efforts to support women's leadership? And why is their participation crucial in creating an inclusive ecosystem? All of you can take it, or one of you, whoever wants to. Or maybe one by one.
Yeah, men are integral part in the whole, to develop in the conversation, and in the conversation to develop a strategy that will enhance the advancement and the empowerment of women. I think like the way we empower our girls, we should also empower our boys. You to understand this, that is very important, because just by only telling our girls to be empowered, and because that's the whole ecosystem we need to teach our boys how to respect women, how to deal with them, how to talk to them, how to accept them, and how to take them as equals. Understand that they are equals. So that is something which is, as she said, as Kimberly said, that right from the beginning, if the whole thing is put into a girl that she's not as good as a boy, or as good as, at the same time, if it is put inside a boy that he's better than that whole aspect should be dealt with right from the beginning. So men are equally important in this whole conversation. That is why in all our events we also have at least one man speaking in our panels, for sure.
Our moderator is the most apt example. As in our forum, we have this, we are a very practically driven forum. So we, most of the forums have the women's wing, so we have the men's wing. So we are acknowledging our brothers, we are acknowledging our sons, and also our colleagues, our fathers. Without them, we would not be where we are.
When we think of including men in the ecosystem, I think we need to go a little deeper down. In the schools, can we start introducing life skill classes for both boys and girls? Stitching the button of a shirt. So can we teach that to the boy and the girl? And that will bring up the next generation where we won't have to discuss enabling an ecosystem. And I'll give you another example of a survey. That's a simple task which will give us the effects 20 years down the line. So life skills at school level and same life skills. And I will give you another example of how the men think differently and why this question is so important. I do some rural surveys as part of my research, and the question was, about 430 households in a village, and one man and one woman from each household had to write on a slip of paper and put in a lottery box. It was like a kind of an icebreaker in the village. So the question was, if you're given all the money and the power, what one thing would you want? The slips came in and we started looking at the boys' boxes and the girls' boxes. The boys' boxes had roads, cinema halls, schools, water pumps, plowing machine, etc., etc. And 95% of the kids in the girls' box had sanitary toilets. See how men think about the ecosystem. So we have to introduce these ideas right from childhood. Thank you.
Kimberly, I know you don't like the word ecosystem, but if you would like to answer this.
It's radical. I apologize in advance. We tell men to go into your own spaces because you have work to do. A lot of times when men haven't done their work, they come into women's spaces to tell women what to do. So we tell them you can model what women do, but you have to do it with men. Like you have to find the gurus or whoever who are going to tell you how to talk to you about it. Because I don't have a lived experience as a man, so I can't tell a man how to behave or how to react to things. And vice versa. And so we really do have a conversation where we tell men, you go off and do your work while we go off and do our work, and then we come together because we're not on the same level in terms of conversation. Because women have been doing the work, and we constantly do the work because we've been socialized that way. And sometimes men like women to do the work for them. So we urge men to find their own spaces so that they can be vulnerable. Because men don't like to be vulnerable in front of women. And I'll leave it at that.
Thank you.
First, I think I would like to address when you were talking to us and you didn't get the response. I think this forum is not the place where you will get that response. If you go to slums, you go to school, then you will get that. We are a privileged lot. And this is a leadership forum. So I think that question didn't apply. And I'm representing Bharat Chamber, and our chamber is a place where business people and the government, I think it's more of a policy advocacy place, and where networking happens. And it gives a platform for government also to explain their policies, and the businessmen, they tell the government what they come to a forum, explain their problems. And a lot of chambers are now acknowledging women. They're giving them forums. They're giving women entrepreneurs to have their own platforms. So I think that's a good thing that chambers are playing a very good role. That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For you, Professor Banerjee, at the moment, India, 2023, the working women's rate in India is lesser than that of Pakistan. Since 2005, consecutive national economic surveys have brought us down from 35% to 19%. And yet the number of women in your class seems to be increasing. So what happens to these girls that they don't want to go out and utilize that valuable education that the country is probably subsidizing for them?
That one of the reasons is that the education woman tries to find the opportunity cost of her time. That I am an engineer and I go to work in a BPO where I'm paid 15,000. I'd rather stay home and look after my family because I do quality work for my family. So it's because of the disguised payment of educated women, because the pay is so exploitative, if I may use such a strong word, that their education asks for much higher pay and position and responsibility. So that is why is one of the reasons. It's the statistics show it is the educated women who are staying home more. Yes, she has.
So connected to what you're saying, so this student in an engineering class, so I'm sure at a BPO level there isn't any pay differentiation between a woman and a
No, but she's thinking as an engineer, I'm not using my engineering skill. It's just a data entry operator's work that I am made to do. So she prefers to stay home, and as a result, she does not utilize her training in any way.
Agreed. So that's where the point that you have raised, madam, that in terms of the thought process, a boy, even though he might want to stay back home and take care of the household, he would be forced to get into a job.
It is a societal push that is sending the boy out to work. Because even for his macho image, he's staying home and the wife going to work is not an acceptable situation in Indian middle class. So I agree 100% with you. The boy in a similar situation is pushed to join the workforce.
Ground to educate someone, and we need to change the way we live our daily lives. If your son sees your father laying the table with your mom, it's going to have a greater impact than any other education. So I think it'll start from our homes. And today when we go back, I think we should probably tell our husbands to come and join us in the kitchen or on the table or whatever. Thank you.
Okay.
I just, me and my team would like to present a platform that we are trying to build for almost a year. So all of you are aware of this initiative that we are working on in contact base with support from US Consulate, is Women Wielding the Workplace. So we have been connecting with these wonderful entrepreneurs. Many of them are sitting here, and we have connected with almost 100 women entrepreneurs, first generation entrepreneurs doing their business, early stage startups, and mentors around 40. So these 40 mentors are from corporate sector, banking sector, and many of them are also professional mentors. So they have been connecting with these women entrepreneurs, helping them, supporting them in day-to-day business or with investment, with finance, with scaling up, with branding, number of sessions. So this particular platform gives an amazing kind of information. We have some segments such as, can you scroll down a bit? So what we do is we feature the events that we will be having, and also the different summits, women-led summits, or for women entrepreneurs, what are the conferences that are happening in the next 1 month. So that is also, those informations are also we are featuring in this particular platform. Why? Because many a times we have heard from our women entrepreneurs that I'm not quite aware of what is happening in the next month. I would like to attend a conference, a meet, a summit, but I'm not quite aware. So we were building this we were thinking of this platform which will give the sufficient information of what is happening around. So one is also, we have these startups. If you click on this particular section of startup, you will get list of name of the startups. Around 60 startups are already registered in this platform, and 40 of the women entrepreneurs, we are in the process of updating their information. So anyone can view and get hold of get information about their business. Also, there are information with regard to business incubators. You can get enough information about who are the incubators. The entrepreneurs can reach out to them, investors and mentors. So we are also featuring these wonderful women achievers. We are showing their stories, because what we believe is, in an ecosystem, to build a robust ecosystem, you need to feature the achievement stories, the success stories. So we are featuring these wonderful women. So some of these entrepreneurs will be today pitching about their business in the other room. So we are very happy to feature them and to promote their business. And so anyone can, if you are a mentor, if you are an investor, if you are a startup, you can register here. And there is an option called Knowledge Hub, where entrepreneurs can get information about funds, schemes, or summits or anything. So we are trying to build this robust ecosystem with your help, with your support. If any one of you want to join as a mentor, as an expert, as a startup, please let us know. We have a Google form. We can share that with you. And it is not that we continuously WhatsApp you or kind of bother you with any mentoring sessions. We will just put your information, and if any of the startups are interested, with your permission, we would like to connect you with the startups.